for them to even come at me. I never did nothing to them.
Right.
I never said anything bad about them, so it's something that's personal, and obviously they crying for help.
Kevin Hart just tried to bury Katt Williams by calling him a desperate weakling clinging to fame, but fans flipped the script, roasting Kevin as the real corrupt phony. And now the backlash is exploding. The moment Kevin went public with those remarks, social media lit up like a live wire. What he thought would be a victory lap turned into a public trial. His words came off as smug, even cruel, and within hours, the same crowd that once hailed him as comedy's golden boy was tearing him apart. It was supposed to be Katt's humiliation, but Kevin is the one left cornered by outrage.
To just go and possibly do research or fact check, and if they do, then great. If they don't, then kudos to that as well. I just don't have the time for it.
The spark came from Kevin's latest interview, where he shrugged off Katt as angry and irrelevant. He framed himself as the one who made it through discipline, while Katt supposedly lost himself in bitterness. But we've seen this posture from Kevin before. It's the same tone he used back in 2018 when he lectured Katt for criticizing Tiffany Haddish. Back then, he said Katt needed to take responsibility. Now he's repeating that playbook, except the public has changed. Fans remember how Kevin used to act superior, how he seemed to move through Hollywood untouched by the scandals that hit everyone else. This time, they're calling it what they think it is: a mask. Let's rewind to January 3rd. Katt Williams sits down on Shannon Sharp's Club Shay Shay podcast and sets off a cultural earthquake. Nearly 3 hours of unfiltered honesty, scorched earth from start to finish. He called out everyone: Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, Michael Blackson. But the name that detonated the internet was Kevin Hart. Katt accused him of being a Hollywood plant, a man prepackaged for stardom before he ever earned his stripes. He already had his deals when he got here, Katt said, questioning how someone could land a sitcom and a major movie in their first year in LA. It sounded like an accusation of insider engineering, of power brokers manufacturing a star. Kevin didn't wait long to respond. On January 4th, he took to X and typed, "Gotta get that anger up out ya, champ. It's honestly sad." Then, in the same breath, he plugged his Netflix film, Lift. It was a clean corporate pivot. Some would call it strategic, others called it slimy. Because while Kevin was pretending to rise above the feud, he was still weaponizing it for marketing. That tweet became the match that burned his own image. Fans started replying with screenshots of old controversies, calling him a hypocrite. They mocked his attempt to sound mature while capitalizing on conflict. One user wrote, "Katt keeps it real. Kevin keeps it profitable." Another said, "You can't preach positivity when half your career is under NDA."
I made a bad error in judgment and put myself in an environment where only bad things can happen, and they did. And in doing that, I know that I'm going to hurt.
The reason that line hit so hard is because Kevin's personal life hasn't exactly screamed transparency. The internet hasn't forgotten the 2017 scandal, when he admitted to bad decisions after footage from Las Vegas went public, or the 2023 lawsuit, where he accused YouTuber Tasha K of extortion after an interview with his former assistant threatened to expose more secrets, allegations of infidelity, gambling, and financial chaos. While Kevin sues to protect his reputation, Katt walks into interviews exposing everything and everyone. The contrast is brutal. One hides behind lawyers, the other behind truth. By the evening after Kevin's tweet, hashtags like Team Katt and Hollywood Puppet were trending. The public response became a referendum on who people trust. Katt's fans flooded feeds with clips from The Pimp Chronicles, praising his refusal to play the game. They said his honesty is dangerous because it makes the wrong people uncomfortable. Kevin, on the other hand, was painted as the industry's smiling enforcer. Too polished, too managed, too safe. The phrase industry plant went from insult to identity. It was no longer just about comedy. It was about who owns the narrative of authenticity in Black entertainment. Behind the noise, insiders whispered that Kevin's latest jab wasn't random timing. He has a new movie, Lift, and a growing list of lawsuits circling his empire. The interview conveniently distracted from his court filings against Tasha K, where he accuses her of trying to extort $250,000 to bury damaging claims from his ex-assistant. The timing made people suspicious. It looked like a strategic diversion. Throw a punch at Katt to draw eyes away from legal heat. But instead of steering attention, it poured gasoline on the fire. Katt didn't even need to respond again. The fans handled it for him. What really shocked the industry was how united the public seemed against Kevin this time.
I don't feed into the stuff at all. At the end of the day, it's all entertainment to a certain degree, so you just hope that people can be smart enough. And
even comedians who once stayed neutral started liking posts that sided with Katt. Cedric the Entertainer and Michael Blackson tried to calm things down, but it didn't work. The narrative had shifted. Katt wasn't the villain anymore. He was the whistleblower calling out what Ice Cube once called gatekeepers. And that term started popping up everywhere again. The idea that certain Hollywood insiders decide who gets to rise and who gets silenced. People began linking Kevin's name to that system. They pointed to his early breaks, the Soul Plane lead role, the early sitcom deals, and said no regular comic climbs that fast without help. It's speculation, sure, but the timing of Katt's words and Kevin's career history made the theory stick. Ice Cube himself had just been on The Breakfast Club talking about gatekeepers and the possibility of unseen powers shaping entertainment. Suddenly, fans began threading those ideas together. Katt Williams speaks truth, Kevin Hart plays the system, and the system fights back. Now, Kevin's team has gone into what sources describe as tight control mode. They're scrubbing narratives, turning off comments, focusing every headline on the Netflix release. But that strategy might already be failing. Every time Kevin tries to pivot, fans drag him back into the dirt with receipts. Old cheating scandals, the extortion suit, even the Oscar hosting controversy from 2018 that resurfaced his homophobic jokes. What was supposed to be a clean Hollywood image is unraveling under a wave of skepticism. Katt's brutal candor has given people permission to question everything they once believed about success in comedy. What's even more intriguing is that people close to the scene say this feud isn't just personal, it's political. They claim there's pressure from high-ranking networks to shut Katt down before he exposes more about casting deals and favoritism. Those same insiders insist Kevin's recent weakling comments were part of a larger push to discredit Katt publicly. But that plan might have backfired worse than anyone expected. Because while Kevin's promoting movies, Katt's earning sympathy as the rebel standing alone against Hollywood machinery. The energy online now feels less like gossip and more like rebellion. Fans are calling for receipts, digging into old interviews, connecting dots between Kevin's silence on certain topics and the larger idea of control in entertainment. And if Kevin thought his tweet would settle the score, it's done the opposite. It's reopened every wound he's tried to bury since his first scandal. But if Kevin thought this would end Katt, he's completely wrong, because sources are now whispering about the real conspiracies behind their war, and it's about to get even uglier.
30-something years ago, right? I'm not going to damn you, but we're talking about a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is you're not old, but.
You're going to go back to it again.
No, I'm just saying, but fuck, right? It's a long time ago.
And that's where everything turned sideways. What began as a petty jab between comedians is now looking like a full-scale character collapse. The more Kevin talks, the worse the optics get. His effort to humiliate Katt by painting him as desperate has only fueled a narrative that Kevin himself is hiding desperation of a different kind, a fear that his glossy empire might be cracking. We can feel it in the way the public language around him has shifted. Just weeks ago, his name still carried that dependable blockbuster glow. Now it's being whispered next to words like gatekeeper and handler. For a man who built his career on the image of being relatable, that's a dangerous association. The gossip cycle has turned surgical. Users are dissecting his interviews, comparing tone, noting the same smug inflection he used during the Oscar controversy when his old homophobic tweets resurfaced. Back then, he refused to apologize until the backlash cornered him. Now he's being accused of playing that same stubborn card, except this time against another black comic. What's worse, the timing aligns too neatly with his lawsuit against Tasha K, the YouTuber he says tried to extort him over an interview with his former assistant. Fans are connecting dots. The way he calls Katt angry, right as he's fighting to silence an insider who allegedly accused him of gambling away paychecks and cheating behind NDAs. They're saying his tweet wasn't a clapback, it was a diversion. Industry sources add fuel to the theory. One longtime comedy promoter tells us that Kevin's disdain for Katt goes deeper than rivalry. It's envy cloaked as discipline.
Right.
So, if there's brilliance in that, then I'm appreciative to that, and I'm trying to be a brilliant person, not a brilliant comedian.
Katt has always been raw, chaotic, untamable. Kevin, on the other hand, built his empire by being safe enough for corporate America. When Katt went off script, he got punished. When Kevin played ball, he got endorsement deals. The promoter said, "Hollywood loves a controllable star. Katt was never that." That line is spreading fast online because it captures what people have felt for years. Kevin's success feels manufactured. We can see how the narrative flipped. Every scandal that used to fade from memory has returned like a ghost parade. The cheating confession video, the extortion attempt, the legal battles, even the way his wife Eniku found out about his affair through a direct message. It's all being dug up as proof of hypocrisy. Meanwhile, Kevin's fans have gone quiet, drowned out by Katt's defenders calling him a truth-teller for daring to expose Hollywood's plants. It's almost ironic. Katt's bluntness, once branded as self-sabotage, now reads like integrity in an era obsessed with transparency. Behind the scenes, a darker theory is brewing, one that ties Kevin's feud with Katt to a wider system of control that entertainers like Ice Cube have been hinting at for years. Cube's recent comments about gatekeepers who decide who thrives and who vanishes are now being replayed side by side with Katt's accusations. The implication is that Kevin isn't just a participant in this machine. He might be one of its chosen faces. Insiders say that whenever a black comedian grows too outspoken, the machine rewards someone more compliant. And Kevin's career, from sitcoms to blockbusters to stadium tours, fits that mold too neatly to ignore. We can't overlook how quickly Kevin went from scolding Katt to playing the victim. The "gotta get that anger up out ya champ" tweet wasn't just condescending, it was polished PR disguised as banter. Within hours, he posted the trailer for his film, Lift, sliding a punchline into the caption. "They really love you. I now know she's talking about Katt." It felt rehearsed, as if the feud had been scripted to trend in time with his release schedule. But fans weren't fooled. They accused him of manipulating the moment for clicks while dodging accountability for everything else boiling beneath his brand. Now the conversation online has shifted from just who said what to why Kevin chose this exact moment to go after Katt again. People familiar with their history point to a psychological undertone that's been simmering for years. This isn't just ego, it's unresolved resentment. Back in 2018, when Katt mocked Tiffany Haddish's sudden rise, Kevin rushed to defend her and used the moment to publicly diminish Katt. That clash exposed something deeper, the frustration of a man who spent decades proving his worth in corporate-friendly comedy being repeatedly dragged by a peer who refused to play along. Some industry watchers believe Kevin's latest weakling comment was never about Katt's honesty. It was about purging the insecurity of feeling overshadowed by someone who thrives outside the system Kevin depends on. We can sense that the public humiliation wasn't spontaneous, but premeditated, born from a place of personal fear. Those close to Kevin's orbit whisper that the past few years have chipped away at his confidence. From the extortion scandal to the canceled Oscar hosting gig to injuries that sidelined his physical comedy persona. Each blow reminded audiences that even the most untouchable stars can fade. Katt's viral resurgence, raw and unscripted, must have struck a nerve. The so-called weakling label starts to look less like an insult and more like a projection. A mirror of Kevin's own anxiety about being perceived as dependent on brand deals rather than genuine artistry.
In 20 years, I've never been on a commercial audition in my life. Like, I never let my tour get sponsored when I was broke or now.
The timing also aligns too perfectly with the business calendar to ignore. Insiders say Kevin's endorsement partners were quietly monitoring his recent lawsuits and personal controversies, hoping the press cycle would cool before new campaigns rolled out. By reigniting a public feud, he may have pushed himself back into negative headlines just as those negotiations were happening. It's ironic. In trying to reassert dominance, he may have jeopardized his corporate safety net. Meanwhile, the same networks that once dismissed Katt as unpredictable are now exploring him for podcast appearances and limited series deals. The industry loves redemption arcs, and Katt, intentionally or not, is shaping one in real time. Behind that commercial shift lies a more emotional story.
I want to look better. What I want the Katt Williams that you see in the movie. I want that to be the same dude you see at the gas station.
We're watching two comedians who once represented opposite ends of the craft, now trapped in the same psychological loop. Both haunted by relevance, both weaponizing humor to mask vulnerability. Kevin's polish has started to look brittle, while Katt's volatility now reads as authenticity. What we're really seeing is a clash between control and chaos, and the uncomfortable truth that the audience now sides with chaos. In trying to brand Katt as unstable, Kevin may have accidentally exposed how dependent he's become on approval, turning his critique into a confession. And the fallout might only be beginning. Publicists whisper that if the outrage continues, certain advertisers could quietly step back from Kevin's projects, citing reputational concerns. Others predict the opposite effect for Katt, a surge of grassroots support from fans who view him as the last unfiltered voice in a sanitized industry. The irony is impossible to miss. The man who set out to humiliate his rival could end up elevating him instead. If this pattern continues, the weakling moment could be remembered not as an insult, but as the moment Kevin Hart's perfectly managed empire began to fracture under its own image. As the outrage spreads, other comedians have quietly distanced themselves. Some, like Michael Blackson, tried to soften the mood with humor, but even that backfired. Comments filled with lines like, "They're protecting the puppet." Cedric, the entertainer who was also criticized by Katt, stepped in to call the feud corny. Yet his tone only confirmed what audiences already believed, that the veterans are circling wagons to shield their own. For every attempt to frame Katt as bitter, the internet finds another reason to call him brave. There's also talk that Kevin's team has begun discreet damage control. Sources close to his management claim he's been advised to stay off social media and focus on projects that reset the narrative. That's PR code for wait until people forget. But forgetting might not come this time. With YouTubers and bloggers replaying every messy headline, from his cheating scandal to his old Oscars fallout, Kevin's image as Hollywood's golden everyman is starting to corrode. The story isn't about one feud anymore. It's about a career built on calculated survival. In the meantime, Katt is riding a strange wave of vindication. Every insult he throws seems to boost his credibility, not damage it. Clips from Club Shay Shay are circulating with millions of views, while Katt's name trends alongside words like truth, unfiltered, and revolution. Fans have turned his tirade into a cultural reckoning, a symbol of defiance against what they call industry cloning. And now, the whispers are louder than ever. That Kevin's empire might not be as clean as it looks, that there are contracts, secrets, and powerful backers keeping the illusion intact.
When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody likes them.
We're hearing that some insiders are calling this the comedy version of the Illuminati theory. Not the wild fantasy about global control, but a smaller circle of entertainment elites protecting their profits through selective sabotage. Kevin, whether he likes it or not, has become the poster child for that narrative. Every move he makes to look dignified only tightens the suspicion that he's acting under orders. The very thing Katt accused him of, being an industry creation, has become the label that fans can't unsee. And that's where the tension sits tonight. Kevin's attempt to silence his critic has transformed into a referendum on fame itself. Is success in Hollywood still about talent, or is it about obedience? As theories multiply and receipts surface, one thing is clear. Kevin's empire is shaking, and the cracks are beginning to show. But if these hidden layers keep unraveling, who knows what dark secrets will drag him down next? So what do we think? Is Kevin Hart really the mastermind behind his own downfall, or just another performer trapped in a machine that finally turned on him? Tell us in the comments, because this story isn't over yet. We'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay curious, and don't blink.